today's session is all about layout. See, in order to create a layout, we should also have a knowledge on fundamentals of CSS. And HTML will help us to design the page. CSS will help us to style the layout. Got my point? So even though whatever the tags that we discussed so far, all the tags which we are placing inside a web page, once the page is created, then only we will be able to use tables, list, anchor tag, images, article, aside, heading tags, even forms, everything we can able to place it inside a web page. First, we have to create a web page. That is the first thing every HTML and CSS developer must understand. For that, so let me create one sample folder. In this particular one, I'm going to talk about first layouts. So in that, let me create one page. I'll try to create a 3-column layout today. Then I'll ask you to create 4-column layout, 5-column layout, or maybe 6-column layout according to our requirement. All we need to do is we have to first decide how are we going to create a layout. Then we must have to place all the elements inside the page. Now, I'll try to create 3-column layout. .html. So even though if you guys don't have any knowledge on HTML, first you try to understand how to create a web page first. So if you are able to understand this concept, then you will be able to move ahead. The file name also, it is very important for us to decide. Since I am talking about a layout, that is where my file name also I have given 3-column layout. Here you see here, I just separated my file name since it is containing multiple words, hyphen based I have given. Why we have to give hyphen based? Because as per digital marketing prospect, hyphen based are search engine friendly URLs. That URLs also, that means that file names when you are giving, don't ever try to give a capital letters or don't even give special characters other than hyphen. If your file consists of multiple words, each word must be separated with a hyphen. Simple. That is first step. Second step, basic structure of HTML. This is the basic structure. Every HTML page should start with a doc type, which describes the version of HTML, what we are using to build this page. Simple. Next, the entire page information and page design must be wrapped within one parent tag, that is HTML. Now, HTML is a parent tag. How can I say it is a parent? Because all the tags are wrapped inside one tag. That is where we can call it as a parent. Now, inside HTML parent, how many children are there? 2. Majorly, HTML has only 2 children. One is head, another one is body. Inside a head, we have to place page information. Inside a body, we have to place page design. Don't ever try to confuse about it. Moving forward, when you have to keep practicing, it will be easier for you to remember. And also my sincere advice for all the participants, don't ever try to by heart the concepts. If you by heart the concepts, max to max 1 week, you can remember this. But if you logically remember, lifelong you can store in your brain. That's where one HTML, this is a child. Head is one of the child, body is another child. Inside a head, we are writing a title. So title should also be relevant to what task that we are building for. Since we are talking about 3-column layout, I'm just giving some 3-column layout. Some relevant. I'm just giving a relevant title. Got my point? So next, guys, if I'll execute this, since I have already saved a file with .html extension, we must have to save file with HTML extension. And I also given only title inside a head. But did I write any sort of things inside a body? No. If I execute, you can see that the body becomes empty. Because all the page design, we must be wrapped inside a body. Since our body is empty, the page is also looks empty. But you can also see that an HOR of this, whatever you are giving, you can see that our title is displaying here. Even similarly, if you go to AchieversIT web page, you can also see that we also given a title here. We haven't exposed any file name. Did we expose any file name there? No. Why? Because the moment if website is loaded, search engines will try to check the title. Based upon the title, internally, there will be other information also we have to give inside a web page. That is meta tags, meta description, keywords. Based upon that only, search engines will understand what is this page is built for. So that don't worry too much about all this at this stage. Now, for time being, you understand title plays very, very important role, which will decide the title. That means what sort of elements and why we are building this page. That is how the title describes. You cannot even give a title saying that task 1 or task 2 or day 1, day 2. Relevant titles are important. So file name also should be relevant and title should also be relevant. Done. Next, what is layout? So before stepping into writing a code, my dear friends, you must have to understand what is layout. This is what you have to start with. If you are not understanding what is layout, then it is tough to write a code. The fundamental is what is layout. General knowledge, BTM layout, JP Nagar, and HSR layout. Something like that, people are naming it. Why? Because there is acres of land. Out of that land, the people are dividing into bits and pieces. Why? In order to live our livelihood, people are dividing 1 acre, 2 acres, 10 acres, 50 acres into a small bits and pieces, out of which, in order to construct a house, how much space is required? Minimum 1,200 square feet for building a 2 BHK, or maybe 1,500 for building a 3 BHK, like that. If you have a complete, think about it, you have this page. Now this one, you can consider this is our web page. We have an empty site. Now this empty site, how are we going to divide into multiple bits and parts is known as layout. It's a general knowledge. See, the web page creation is dead easy if you are comparing with your house construction. See, however, civil engineers are constructing a house. Same way software engineers are constructing a web application or mobile application. There will be steps, right? First, what is the requirement? In order to build a web page or in order to build a house, what are the first requirement? We should also have a space. First, we need to buy a space. Once the space is bought, then you have to decide what sort of building that you are going to construct. Whether it is going to be a living house, or is it going to be a school, or is it going to be a theater, or it is going to be a paying guest, PG, or is it going to be apartment? That is what a different sort of requirement will be there for the humans. Am I right? Understand what I'm trying to say? Similarly, even when we are creating a layout, now we should understand what sort of application that we are going to build. Whether it is going to be e-commerce application, or it's a banking application, or finance application, or educational related application. There will be different kind of applications that we have to work with in a real time. No matter whatever the application that you are going to build, but it has to start from one page, right? However, it will start from one brick. In order to build a page, we should also have a knowledge on HTML. HTML is all about tags, elements, attributes. These are the three main concepts. By keeping these three main concepts in our mind, then you should pick up right tag at right place. That is where we are here to help you. And learning a tags, you can learn anywhere. But right tag, right place. Right element, right place. Right attribute, right place. These are the things that you must have to understand from the subject matter experts like us. Okay. Now, however, think about it, I have a empty page like this. Now, in this empty page, make sure that every website will also have a header part, right? If you look after every website, no matter whatever the site that you visit every day, each website will have a header, and each website will also have a footer. And some websites in the home page, they will be having some slide bar. Images are keep sliding. Some of the websites, like just general layout that I'm creating. But once you understand how to create a single simple layout, then we are going to use that concepts to build a complicated layouts as well. Get my point? Now, inside that, inside a header, what are the elements that you have already seen in our websites? Because you would have already visited Amazon, you have already visited Flipkart, you have already visited AchieversIT website. Get my point? Everywhere there is a concept. In the header, what people have to put here? Logo, in order to represent their brand. Next, right after that, people have to keep, this is called navigation system. What is that? Navigation system. Why we need to give a navigation system? That also you should understand. Because I'll tell you what is the purpose of navigation system. Do you think that every web page, all the services what that particular website is providing, is it possible for us to showcase all the services in a single page? No. General knowledge, I'll tell you, when you are constructing a house, is it possible for you to accommodate kitchen, master bedroom, everything in a single room? It sounds like a complete, a hall. It sounds like a movie theater. Am I right? Why? Civilization is also important. Our forefathers is already given our structure. That's my point. So wherein the moment when user enters, where are we going to allow user to enter in our house? Directly master bedroom or directly kitchen? Where? Hall. We will ask our family, friends, or anyone, they can enter into our house if you are giving an entrance. By using that entrance, they can even enter into hall. From there, if the connectivity is not there to other rooms, is that possible for us to navigate? Similarly, a web page or a mobile page or mobile application. One application is a group of, if you take an example of whatever the app it is, whether it is a web app or mobile app, it's a group of how many? P1, page 1, page 2, and so on, page N. Like that, multiple pages will be there, my dear friends. Please understand. See, writing a code is just a matter of 5 minutes. But we should understand the requirements. According to requirements only, we have to build the page. That is where AchieversIT will always focus on the analyzing part and planning part. If you are good at analyzing and planning, and implementation is dead easy. But most of the students or most of the folks will start implementing the code first instead of understanding the concepts. Now, even though each page will also have its own structure, right? Do you think that if you enter into a house also, the hall architecture, the design of a hall is same as a kitchen? No. The design of a kitchen is same as master bedroom? No. Every room will also have a unique design, right? Am I making sense? Similarly, even when you are designing a page, each page should also have a unique design. Now think about it, this is my home page. This is my page 1. Think about it. This entire structure, I'm just building it for P1, page 1. Now, if you go to page 2 also, so commonly what we have to keep it, even if you're building a page 2, so there'll be header is common, then we have to reuse this header. And there could be a footer also common, we have to reuse it. And if, see, as per the rule of a web applications or mobile applications, the home page is the one which we have to decorate more. Why? Because every user is landing on top of a hall. That is where people will invest more money in the front side of an application. At the same time, they will try to add POP design inside a house also. POP design, showcase, and all these things are decorating in which area? Hall only. That's my point. Why? Because the users will come in. The first impression is the best impression. That is where in the home page, the people will give a unique design. But inner pages, they will try to give some different design. Now, inner pages, I don't think, we are going to use a slider. So sliders are not required. But if the client, it is all about client requirement, right? If the client is asking us to keep the slider every page, we have to do it. We don't have other option. But I'm telling you general information. Now, if my inner page, if it also has like this kind of design. Think about it. This is page 1. This is page 2. Now, when you are constructing a page, my dear friends, you should always think top to bottom. We have to design a page. Who is going to give this kind of designs? There is a graphic designers will be there in a company. Those guys will try to assume, they will try to understand the requirements which is given by a client, and they will try to visualize, and they will try to give a graphic designs. Now, who has to convert that graphic designs into templates? HTML developers. The one who knows HTML and CSS, he has to convert a graphic designs into template. Now, graphic design, do you think that that is a interactive design, interactive elements? That is just an image. Either it is a Photoshop design or Illustrator or PNG or JPG, whatever it is. But that is not going to be an interactive site. That graphic design, graphical user interface, we must have to convert them into actual elements by using HTML and CSS. That is called layout. Am I making sense? Any questions, online team? Okay, so if you people have no questions, I'll try to move. See, instead of building an entire web page at one shot, you might feel a little bit confusing, because you people came from a different background, and all of a sudden, if you try to build a bigger page at one shot, you might feel confusing. That's why this is called 3-column layout, right? What is this? This is known as 3 columns. Here, how many columns are there? 2 columns. Why? Because logo is one part, but navigation is another part. Like that, you have to imagine. Why? Because logo and navigation is not same category, right? Am I making sense? General knowledge. So now this is comes under 2-column layout, and this is only single image. Multiple images are keep on sliding. I can call it as this is a single column. Understand, sir? Now, if you are considering this is a row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3, this one is row 4. Some of the applications, if you try to see, even the footer is already divided into 4 partitions, 5 partitions. That is according to the requirement. They would have decided to create a multiple partitions. Now, how many columns are there here? 4 columns. Now, if you learn how to create a 3-column or 2-column, whatever the column layout, then it is a combination of multiple layouts, right? Because 2-column, now 2-column, single column, 3-column, 4-column. If you mix and mixture of all these 4 types, then you can build single page. Am I making sense? Now, first, what I'm going to do, I'll try to start with 3-column layout. Then I'm going to achieve this. Get my point? It is very simple, dead easy. Please try to understand how I am going to use what are the techniques which I am picking up. Now you have a fundamental basic idea that is sufficient enough for you to move forward. Now I am going to focus on 3-column layout. What is that? First, I'll try to focus on 3-column layout. Then I'll try to create a web page. Is that okay? Let me clear the scene. The discussion is over. Now, guys, it is a time to write a code. Okay. Now, the first and foremost thing, when you are creating a layout, you have to plan. Planning is very important. What you must have to plan. See, in HTML, first you have to decide HTML contains lots of tags. But what are the tags which are going to be useful for us to create a layout? Now, table is not a right tag for creating a layout. Paragraph is not right tag. We also learn multiple tags, but out of which tag is suitable for us, that is very important. That is called planning. If my plan is to achieve one single row, this is a row. Think about it, this is a row. In this row, I would like to divide this particular row into 3 columns. Now, this is my output. If that is the case, first you must have to, create a DOM tree. What is that? Document object model, DOM tree. This tree describes how your layout is going to be structured. I'll tell you how are we going to create a DOM tree as well. Now, first row 1, you must have to create a row. Then inside column 1, column 2, column 3. Now, in order to create a row in HTML, what are the tags that are going to help us? That is what? Then there is a tag called division tag. Am I making sense? By using division tag alone, we can create a row. For planning a layout, first one row is important. That row should be a block level element. It should be a block level element. Now, don't ever try to use tables. Don't ever try to use other than division. But HTML5 has given some other elements, but I'll explain about HTML5 little later to create a layout. First, you try to understand divisions are sufficient enough for us to create a row. Now, inside a row, how many columns it is divided? 3 columns. Even the 3 columns also, we have to use a layout related elements. Still, I can use with a division alone. I can use still division for creating a columns also. Now, my dear friends, understand the concept. Now, DOM tree. This is my parent. This creates a row. Out of this row, how many children? Even for child also, I am giving divisions. Am I making sense? That is how you must have to start creating a layout. Now, what is the nature of all these divisions? Even this division or this division, what are the element type? In HTML, we discussed the elements are 3 types: inline, block level, inline block. Now, in that case, even all the divisions are block level. Generally, what block level elements will do, if it is a web page, if you are placing a divisions, all these 4 divisions, if I am placing, even though 3 divisions, if I am wrapping inside one parent, now the parent division, it will start displaying top 00, top to bottom, it will start displaying. Then inside that first division, second division, third division also displays in a 1 by 1. Why? Because what is the nature of these elements? Block level. It blocks the entire row. But according to our requirement, you should request these children to display side by side. That is where CSS comes into play. Now, in order to display side by side, don't use inline element in HTML. You should restrict yourself to create a layout with a division only. But conversion, you have to do it. Though division is a block level element, it is displaying 1 by 1. Now you have to use CSS to convert a block level element into inline or inline block. That is what CSS plays very, very important when you are talking about a layout. There are many ways that we can do, out of which in CSS, now HTML, we understand division is going to help us to create a layout. In CSS, we have flexbox. What is that? So there are multiple ways, but out of all, flexbox is the recommended one nowadays. Flexbox is the recommended one. Now, first we'll understand for one problem, there are multiple solutions, right? Even in human life also, in order to resolve one problem, there will be multiple solutions. But picking up the best solution is our intelligence. If the person who is having intelligence, he will try to get the best result, he will try to get the best solution, and he will try to provide the best results. But other people are also resolving the problem. But experience speaks a lot. That is where companies are always investing lots of money on top of experienced guys. If you are not experienced, at least you should also have a lot of knowledge. Even freshers also, companies will give an opportunity when, if you have a talent. You should have a real-time knowledge. That's my point. Now, we have decided to create a layout by using a division tag, and we have decided to use flexbox. I'll tell you how are we going to combine these two to create a 3-column layout like. This is what our achievement. This is what I would like to accomplish. Now, for that, guys, listen. Let me clear the board. As for the DOM tree which I have created, now first I have to take, let me give some sort of hint text that is called comments. I'm just creating 3-column layout for you to understand. 3-column layout. This is comments. Next, I'm taking a parent. The parent also I'm taking as a 1 division. Inside how many children's? Division 1, division 2, division 3. Now, as per HTML rule, no tag should not be placed without any text or without any other element. Now you can see that line number 9, 10, and 11. Did we place any sort of text inside a divisions? Since you are not placing, go back and try to reload your page. Is there any way that you can see the output? Though you have placed 4 divisions, but though output is empty because your divisions did not, you have not placed any text or any other elements. That is a thumb rule. Don't ever try to place a tag without any text or element. That is important. Now it is okay. So what I'm planning to do, I'll try to keep for you people to explain 1, 2, 3. I'm just keeping, or else what I'll try to do, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some text I'm placing it. The moment when I reload our web page, guys, after making a change, please try to reload the page which is already been loaded in the browser. You can see that HTML, CSS, JavaScript is loading. Am I right? Now open a developer tool, right click, and there is an option to inspect. If you inspect it, this is called developer tool. Forget about all the tabs so far. I'll try to explain about each one of them when situation demands. Now concentrate majorly on elements. This is called DOM tree. The browser is, during the runtime, the browser is collecting all your source code and it is creating a DOM tree so that browser is in a position to execute the output easily. Moving forward, you will get to know what is this DOM and how we are going to manipulate DOM in JavaScript. Now you see here, what is my parent? Now when I'm moving my mouse, now this is known as parent element, right? Now is that a block level element or inline? Since you can see that the visualization on H over the sky blue, it is completely occupying the entire row. Since it is entirely occupying entire row, I can call it as a block level blindly. Block level blocks the row. Now this children also is a block level. Even this children, because the nature of a div is block level. That's all. Don't ever try to crack your brain to understand. If element is blocking, it is block level. If it is not blocking, it is inline. If whoever is not understand difference between block inline and inline block, we have already given an example. If you read that video, then it is easier for you to understand. Simple. Now, guys, as per our requirement, we have to place these 3 elements side by side, right? See, for a visual purpose, I'm writing a CSS. I'm selecting whom I'm selecting now. Is that a parent or child? I'm selecting parent on the fly in my browser. So here you can see that element.style. This is inline CSS I'm writing. So border, what is that? Border, 1 pixel width, space, solid is a border style, space, red color. Red is a border color. So this is not going to be a layout. See, before creating a layout, for you to understand, I'm just setting one border so that you will get to know that it is a block level. It is blocking entire row, right? Am I making sense? Now, so far, I'm not talking about a layout. So this is just, border, we are limiting the element. We are setting the limitations of our element. Next, for each child also, you must have to give a border. Now, if that is the case, I have to go for each child, border 1 px solid red. Even for HTML element, for CSS also we have to write Now CSS properties, I'll try to explain in detail in the properties class. But for time being, try to understand how border is helping us to border 1px solid red. Now, as per our actual design, we have to place this HTML, CSS, JavaScript into side by side. To do that, guys, listen carefully. Very simple technique. It is very, very simple. Now, this particular parent. Now, what is the nature of this parent? Block level. The element type is block level. Now, I'm just changing that element type C here. Display, I'm changing to flex. Because the default nature is block, I'm changing it to flex. The moment when I add display flex, that is called flex box. What happens? All the children's turned into inline. Now, to whom you are controlling here? You are controlling a child by applying a property to parent. And if I uncheck this, again, their behavior is block. If I'm adding display flex or a parent, now parent, what it will try to do, it takes the immediate children's. This is very important point. What it will do? It takes the immediate children's. Those immediate children's, if they are block, what it is doing? It is converting into inline. Now, here the question, see this parent, what is the parent width? Now, this is a parent element. Now, this parent element, now the first behavior is block level. It is a block level, right? Now, the moment when I'm using, display flex, if I apply display colon flex is a value, display is a property in CSS. What it will do, this block level, what it will do, it converts into flexible. It is a flex container now. Now it is, the parent is converted into flex container. Make sense? Now what flex container generally it will do, it takes the immediate children's. It takes the immediate children's. Who are the immediate children's? Other three divisions. These guys are immediate children's. We can also call it as items. What is that? Items. Now this is called flex container. Parent, we can call it as a flex container. Inside a parent, whoever is immediate children's, we can call it as flex items. Now container and items. Container, it contains the items. Simple, am I right? That is how we used to call container. Lorry also we can call it as a container, right? Truck also we can call it as a container. Even our laptop bag also we can call it as a container, which contains the elements. Am I making sense? Simple. Now, immediate children are turned into, what happens? Inline. They are turning into inline. So the moment when you are giving display flex to the parent, all these immediate children are turned into inline. That is first step. Second step, guys, now since the parent element is converted, all the elements, children are converted into inline. Now you see that inline element nature is whatever the space that is required for them, they are occupying only that much space. Are they taking any extra single pixel? No, that is not the behavior of inline. But here the challenge is, now you see that the parent has still this much of space. Now, if you are planning to place other elements, you try to keep that space. But here only 3 elements, but think about it, a parent have 4 apples. Just an example I'm giving. If the parent has, 4 apples, if the 3 children are there, all 4 apples either equally, it has to be distributed to each children. Am I right? Either equally or unequally, but 4 apples must be served properly. Am I making sense? If the 4 apples are not properly served, what happens? Someone will be able to loot that particular portion of apple. Just an example. Now here also it is happening. Though you converted, but this empty space, if you are displaying in a web page, is that looking good? White spaces looks good. Even you have a beautiful house. Think about it. You have a beautiful 2 BHK house. But in this 2 BHK house, there is no items inside your house. Your house looks empty. It is useless of creating a house with empty. Similarly, web page, boss, each and every square feet is also important, right? When you are constructing a house, are we going to leave a square feet? Each and every square feet is also important. The space, we have to utilize it properly. Now, here the point is, we should request these children to make use of the parent width available width either equally or unequally. How? That is where now you see here, I'm going to talk to my children first. For these children, I'm going to use one more sub property called flex. Is a property space one I'm just giving. When I give one, what happens? You see that something is changing in our layout. If I remove this, what happens? Now all the children turn into inline, but the parent width is not properly utilized it. Now for a first one, I give flex 1. And for the second one also, if you want flex 1 equal value, flex 1. For third one also, if I give flex 1, this flex property, it will try to, since you are giving a common value for all children, right? How many children are there? 3. Now parent, how many partitions that we did? 3 partitions. For all 3 children, you gave one value to flex. Then what does it mean? Is that equal or unequal? It is equal. Am I making sense? Now I'm going for second child. Now that is where you can see that the parent width is equally used by all the children. How? By using flex property for a children's. Now display flex, you must have to apply for a parent, and flex you have to apply for items. This is the logic, technical things that you must remember. Display flex for a container element, flex for items. Very simple. Next, guys, if I wanted to give unequal, select this guy. What I'm going to do? 2. If I give 2, what happens? How many partitions now your parent is? 4 partitions, out of which one I applied for a first and last child, 2 I applied for second child. I merged. And if I wanted to give more, even more, now you see here, I'm going to use 3. I can even make it 4. I can even make it 5. I hope you understand. Any questions? Now, in this case, if I use 5, now 1 plus 5 plus 1, how much it is? 7 partitions. Out of 7 partitions, 1 partition I applied for a first child, remaining 5 partitions I merged and I applied for second child, remaining 1 I applied for last child. Those guys are adjusting within the parent. Tomorrow, for example, if any new element comes into play, think about it. Now, how many children are there? 3 children. Now, DOM manipulation, just on the fly in the browser itself using edit, developer tool, I'm adding one more element. If I add one more element, here I'll try to make it as ReactJS. Just an example, one additional element is been added. Think about it. So by that time, for that additional element also, we have given how much? Flex 1 we have given. Then if you come back, now you see here, even for this guy, I have given flex 1. Now, see, it is not even properly placed. Now let me go back, edit as HTML. I'm just copying this code. Inside that, I'm manipulating. What I'm doing on the fly in order to see it, I'm just writing ReactJS. So kindly follow blindly. It is very simple, boss. It is not a rocket science. If you do that, now within the parent itself, the number of children are automatically adjusting, right? Is that going outside of a parent? No, that is called flexible. Now, since your parent is a flexible container, even the number of children, if it is getting added, it will adjust within the container. Even sometimes if you delete also, number of children's count reduces, it will also adjust. Now, what do you mean? So if I use flex 1 for everyone, now here flex 1, 5, 5 I have given. Flex 1, 5, 1, 1. What does it mean? How many partitions my parent is? 8 partitions, out of 1 for first children, 5 for second one, remaining 1 for remaining children. Now I don't want, equally for all of them, I have to treat equally. So then you try to give equal value. Am I making sense? But it is very, very simple and it is powerful. Now, if you don't know how to create a layout, now if you learn CSS and HTML is useless. That is where the first and foremost thing, you decide what are the tags that you have to use to create a layout. Then flex box. Here, flex container, flex item. Who is container? The element which contains the children, we can call it as a container. The elements which are placed inside a container, we can call it as items. You are clear about container and items, right? Now for a container, display flex. What is the default nature of a container? Display block. Now how I am converting that block level element into flexible element? By giving display : flex. It converts into flexible container. What it will do, it takes the elements and it will convert elements into all the items into inline. Then you have to decide how your children are going to be used your parent space, since your parent is a flexible container now. Now 3. Now if I reload, what happens? I reloaded. Everything is gone. Why it is gone? Because I have used the developer tool for temporarily I make the changes in my browser to check. That is the power of a developer tool. This will help us to do a development and temporarily to check whether it is working well. If it works well, implement the same in our project. Now I noticed it, yes, it is working well. Same again, I am repeating here, my dear friends. Now it is a time for you to give who is a parent here. Line number 8 is a parent, or line number 9, 10, 11 is a parent? 8. Now inline CSS. CSS you have to apply, right? You have to apply CSS to the element. How many ways that we can apply CSS? Inline, internal, external. First, let us learn inline. How to apply inline CSS for an element? By using style attribute. What is that? The style is an attribute, right? It is adding extra information back to the element. Am I making sense? Now, what the parent is a block level. Now you have to convert parent into flexible. How to convert? Display is a property. What is the value? Flex. Done. The moment when I do this, guys, listen carefully. Now all the children are block level or inline? All the children, they are block level now. They are block level. Now if I reload, since their parent is a flexible container, that's what this parent is controlling the children's, and whose behavior is block, it converted into inline. Done. Now these children's you have to give equal spacing of a parent. To do so, for each children again you have to use an inline CSS. Am I right? Style flex is a property. Then equal in the sense one in positive integer. What do you have to do? Positive integer. The same you have to copy, paste. See, 20% you are writing a logic, 80% what you are doing? Copy paste. That is what IT is all about. Seriously, IT jobs are dead easy jobs, but we'll do our actions because we are not following the right guidelines and right support. Am I making sense? No matter whatever the job that you take, data science, artificial intelligence, Python, all copy paste job only, but we have to understand the fundamentals first. Get my point? After giving flex : 1, guys, listen carefully. If I reload, what happens? All these 3 children equally utilize the parent width properly now. Now there is no white spaces. Properly we have given it for 3 children. Now for a visual purpose, I gave you guys what I have given. Border I have given for you to understand. Border is a property. Property colon value. Give one space. 1 pixel is a width. Solid is a style of a border. Whether it is a solid border or a dotted border or dashed border or double border. If I give dashed instead of solid, if I'm using dashed space, the color of a border, which color that you want, you can use any color. Semicolon. This is the syntax of placing a property and value. Now if I reload, now we can see the dotted border came, right? 1 pixels I gave, that's why it is giving 1 pixels. If I give 5 pixels, the width of a border will come 5 pixels. More. That's my point. Now for each children also you have to give a border. But before giving that, I'll give you one more property, padding. There is one more property, padding. Padding, since I'm giving it for a parent, my dear friends, it increases the space within the parent element. All 4 sides within the parent element, it increases. Now padding 20 pixels I'm giving. Now you see here, padding 20 pixels when I give, you see automatically that light green color indicates padding. Now border sets the border and padding increases the space within the element. Now there is another property called margin. Increases the space outside. One is increasing the space within the element. Another one increases the space outside of an element. I'll tell you about border, padding, margin. All these properties are called as box model properties in CSS. That we'll try to talk later. Now concentrate how to convert your parent into a flexible container, how to select your items into flexible items. That is what you must have to check. Now for each children also, I'm going to give a border. Do I need to give a border for each children? You all 4 sides, you give border. Now instead of using 5 pixels, let me go for 1 pixel. Instead of using dashed, I'm going to use dotted. I'll use dotted. Am I making sense? Now dotted red color instead of red color. If you are asking me to give gold color, I'll try to any color that you can. Just an example for you to display. It's okay. Even if you're not giving space, also fine. Now multiple properties, we are adding it for single element. Now if I reload, you can also see that dotted borders are. Zoom in and try to see it. You can see that dotted, right? Now between each element, is there any gap? There is no gap between each element. Now what is the property that we're supposed to use to give a gap between elements? Outside, that is outside. Margin, you have to use it. If it is inside, then you have to go for a padding. If it is outside, you have to go for margin. Now see, for each element, if I want to give a space outside, then what is the property which I have to use? Margin. Maybe if I use 5 pixels for each one of the element, this is dead easy, boss. All these properties also, it is very easy. If you are aware of English, that is why programming is English like statements. Am I right? Are we writing a binary code here? We are writing English like statements. You see here. Now the gap also came here. Am I right? Now gap between each one of the element. Now within this element, if I want to give a gap, what I have to do? Within this element, I have to give a gap. Yes, super. Padding, we have to use it. How many pixel of padding it is required? Maybe 10 pixels, 13 pixels. Pixels is a unit of measure. That I'm just writing for 1. I'm just using it for others. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Now, if I reload, now this looks good or previous one looks good? Ultimately, this looks good. Why? Because social distancing is always important, even in writing a pages also. We should not even mix and mixer of, if you are clumsy, if you are placing all the elements, if your web page not looks good. That's why proper breathing spaces. Who is going to give this kind of designs? Designers will give. According to the designers only, we have to complete it. If you know how to convert the designs into a template using HTML, CSS, no matter whatever the complicated design which is given by your designers, you can easily convert it. Am I right? Any questions so far? Online team. Tushar, Saujanya, Anita. See, it is very clear. Why? Because guys, I'm not a just trainer. I'm an architect. So even I have been executed thousands of programs so far. It's not just only first day training. It's not first day training. I know what sort of questions that students might ask. So before that only I'll think and I'll try to give answers for all your queries. That is where my sessions, people will never ever ask too many questions. Why? Because I'll just read their mindset and I'm going to deliver all the concepts. Whatever you are thinking, I'm just already giving the answers for them. Make sense? Am I making clear? Now this is 3-column layout. In case if I want to do a 4-column layout, very simple. Additionally, what we are going to do? You are not going to do anything, my dear friend. ReactJS. If you add it, automatically the 3 columns turned into 4 columns. Additionally, one item you have to add it. If you wanted to convert this into 2 columns, then two column. If you want to convert into single column, keep single item. This converts into single column. 5 columns. Make sense? This is what additionally we are adding element. Now restrict ourselves, since we are talking about only 3 column, let us keep it only 3. Hope you understand my difference. Any questions? See, now it is 3 column. Okay. Now, so I would like to conclude today's session. See, now you see that HTML is more or CSS is more here. It looks like CSS is more. And also here we are repeating a CSS, right? These 3 properties or 4 properties for one children, whatever you are given. The same properties is repeated for other children as well. This is called code duplication. What is that? We should not use this kind of things. That is why inline CSS is not encourageable. We should not use inline CSS because there is a principle called dry. What is that principle? There is a principle. It is very important. It is not only apply for a development. D stands for do not repeat logically. That is why people used to call it as dry. This is one of the best principle every human has to understand, not only software engineer. If today you make a mistake, not a problem, because knowingly or unknowingly commit a mistake. But again, if you repeat the same mistake, completely nobody is going to change you. Why? Because without knowing, if you commit a mistake, okay, it is okay, acceptable. But after knowing, again, if you commit a mistake, that is not encourageable. Here also, the code is duplicating. Flex, this code is duplicating. This code is duplicating. This code is duplicating. For all the children, if you are using, that is where inline CSS, we should not even write it. What we have to do? Next, we have to go for what is our solution. See, I said inline is not recommended. Then there should be a solution, right? That is called next internal. Even some cases, internal is also not so great. That is where we have to go for external CSS. This is the one which is recommended in real-time applications. I'll tell you how are we going to do that. First, step by step, we'll understand. Some scenarios still, in worst scenario, we have to use inline also. That is where you should understand multiple ways. Then which one is better, which one is feasible, then you can use it. Now, I'm clearing this. Now, guys, listen carefully. Now, if I want to select this internal, now first of all, internal CSS that I'm going to use style at tag. What is that? Now, style is a tag or not? Line number 5. This style is a tag or a attribute? It is a tag. Why? Because lesser than followed by tag name, and type is also attribute, and lesser than / tag name, greater than. This is a end tag of a style tag. This is a start tag. Am I right? But here this is known as attribute. That's why don't get confused. Some places, some of the words will act as attributes, some of them will act as tags. For internal CSS, style is a tag that you have to use. Where do you place internal CSS? It is a very important one. Where do you place? Within the head. Always you have to place internal CSS or external CSS. You must load within the head. Now I hope you understand what is the purpose of head also. Title also we have placed, and now it is helping us to place internal CSS. Now for HTML5 document, type is not mandatory for style tag. That is why I'm deleting. Type is not mandatory for HTML5. It by default, it understands it is a CSS type. Make sense? Now here, guys, listen carefully. If I would like to select these elements, first I should know selectors. What is that? If I want to apply any CSS properties for any element, you should know how to select them. So you people also choose the AchieversIT Training Institute. After doing a lot of research, that is where you selected, right? How did you select? You might have already applied some sort of filters. That's my point. Similarly here, we have to select an element. Now for parent, there is a way to select. For children's also, there is a way to select. Now in order to select, there are multiple selectors are there. You need not to understand at this stage. I'll tell you how to do that. Now there is one common selector. One is class. What is that? Class is one of the attribute which will help us to select an element in CSS. I have to give a class value. What is the value which I am giving? This is a predefined value. What is that? This is a predefined value, container. Now to select in CSS using that class, that represents class. And what is the value? What this particular sentence is going to do, it search for an element inside a body whose class value is equal to container. How many values are there? Only one. Now that element only I'm selecting. As I started writing code within the flower bracket. Now all the properties I'm taking out, Control X, I'm keeping here. Now for us to understand better, all these properties I'm just displaying one by one. Now this inline is required. That is not required. We selected in a different way. Now even though when I reload, is there any change in the output? No change in the output. Why? Because we are cleaning up the code. Similarly, you see that all these children I have to select 1, 2, 3 children. For this particular item, all these 3 children we have to select. Am I making sense? Now there is one more descendant selector. How? You see dot container. What it will do? It selects an element whose class value is equal to container. Space division. Again, I'm repeating. I'm using a class. This alone selects an element whose value is equal to class, but I don't want that. I want that children's, right? If I'm giving space, it will get into the element and it is searching for a tag whose tag name is division. How many tags are there? 3. All the 3 divisions are going to select now. Very simple. Now, flower bracket, whatever the properties that we have added for children, Control X, keep it for this. Now, for a better understanding, we are just displaying the properties one by one. Simple. Am I making sense? Now, see, this inline CSS I have to delete. Now, this also I have to delete. Why? Because this selector also it is selected, right? All the children have been selected. One place, every children is been selected. Make sense? Now done. If you go back, is there any change in the output? But there is a huge maintenance, right? We have changed, this is also called as one more principle called separation of concern. We discussed about dry. Now separation of concern. What is separation of concern? One more principle called separation of SOC. This principle is called separation of concern. We will call it as SOC. What does that mean? See, all the CSS we are writing at CSS place. All the HTML we are keeping at HTML place. Now this is easy to understand, right? If any new person tomorrow, see, client is asking us to change, I don't want dotted border, I want solid border. Then if you change this dotted to solid, it reflects to all children's. One place, if you make a changes, it reflects in many places. That is the power of going for separation of concern. You should not even mix and mixer of everything in single row. These are the techniques that you people have to apply when you are using a real-time project. That is what you must have to learn. Basics, you can go to any other tutorial, but project-based training is very important in order to survive. But if you want to get a job, getting a job is dead easy in IT. But which one is tough? Survival will become very, very tough if you're not having a practical knowledge. That's where many people are struggling. They are not even having a basic knowledge, advanced knowledge. That is where they are just keeping some in critical knowledge. They are applying for a job. If you are good at communication, people will give you a job. But when you are working on project, if you're good at communication, if you speak with a language or an editor is going to write a code for you, or you are going to write a code for you. You must have to write. That is why you must have to learn the standards. Coding standards will also be there. Every language will have its own standards. Coding standards. Now we have to follow the standards. If you are not following the standards, if you are writing your own standards, companies won't even encourage. In companies, do you think that 99.9% is equal to 100%? That's my point. It is not equal to 100%. Client will never compromise. Even if you say that only one mistake, client will never accept that. Why? Because he don't want his customers to face a problems. That is where he has hired a developer. Right? Now, since many of the students, only one class if I miss, okay. That is not the case, boss. You should not even miss even single class. If today whoever is missed a class, now think about it tomorrow. If the layout, if I am building, you might not be able to understand. Regular class is regular class, even backup, or maybe even this video also we are recording and we are going to upload in our LMS. But even if you're, if you are there in a live class, then if you go to the video, it will be easier for you or not. Am I making sense? How many people are going to our LMS and watching the videos every day? Are you gaining the benefits at least? That is what this is, hybrid model of teaching. Thank God, we should be thankful to Google Meet. We should be thankful to Zoom. And you people are lucky people. Why? Because in our generation, 13, 15 years before, there is no this kind of tools and all. And we should, first, I have traveled almost 30 kilometers in order to learn one course. By that time, there is no courses nearby. That too, I used to sit inside a trainer house. I used to clean his house also. He taught me the lessons, but by that time, even though the resources are not available so great, even today, Google, everything is available in Google, but you should know how to search. 80% of the code you can even copy paste. But 20% customization, you have to write it. For this 20% as code, you need a real-time knowledge. What is that? Real-time experience is really required. That is where once this HTML, CSS is over, you guys have to build one small mini project by your own. Then you will be able to get hands-on experience. If you are not getting a job, if it is taking too much of time in the sense because you are not properly following, that's all. You have to take a blame on yourself, not anybody else. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm summarizing the class today. So now this is a flex container. This is a flex container items. Now this is called flex items. Now container, to whom we will call it as a container, which contains the items, we will call it as a container, which are placed inside a container, we will call it as items. Now here display flex, to whom you have to give display flex? For a container or children's? For a container only, you have to give display flex, not for a children's. After the entire story, again, you are saying that, but for items, you have to give flex, either equal value or unequal value. That is up to you. Am I making sense? Now this padding, margin, all these guys are comes under box model properties, which is creating a box, right? It sounds like a box only, right? When you are giving a border. That is where they are calling as box model properties. I'll try to explain it. Now this is also called as a selector. This is also one more selector. So what is selectors is helping us? Selectors are helping us to select an elements. And what is, these guys are called as properties. Properties are helping us to style an element. In CSS, who are the core concept then? The entire CSS relies on these two concepts. You have to understand selectors and you have to understand properties. Simple. Tomorrow also I'll try to talk about layout, a part 2. So there are some main concepts which are released in HTML5. You should think about that. I'll create a page tomorrow. One sample project I'll create and I'll give it to you all. Okay. And from tomorrow onwards, once I'll create a home page, but remaining other pages, one page, I'll give it to you all as a part of assignment, so that each one of them has to complete one page. No matter if 10 to 20 members are there, 30 members, 30 pages, you have to build it. So I'll take your output and I'll try to, put it inside a project so that it's mini project. Then once that is done, I'll give you mini project, individual project for each one of the developer. You should not even treat that you are a student. You are already engineer. Okay. So it's a purely real time and project based. Okay. That's all for today's session. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now.